You've got to be able to track your progress and you have to measure, am I achieving this goal or not? You have to focus on your unique talents or what we call our circle of genius. You cannot 10x your output if you're just playing it safe, and you're not able to do that if you're leaning into things that you're not very good at. Welcome to Raising the Flipping Bar, the go-to podcast for aspiring and seasoned real estate investors. I'm your host, Derek Marlin, and I'm the CEO of Elevation. We're a real estate investment company based right here in Denver, Colorado. We'll dive into smart investment strategies, market insights, and essential tips for scaling your real estate ventures. Whether you're making your first investment or your 100th investment, this podcast is your blueprint for success in the ever-evolving world of real estate investing. Get ready to elevate your real estate game and begin your journey with me. Hey everybody, welcome back to Raising the Flipping Bar. I'm your host, Derek Marlin, and we are going to be dropping this episode at the very end of 2024, very beginning of 2025. So I want to use this opportunity as a way to help you set goals for 2025, and more importantly, hopefully help you crush those goals. It's something that I've done for a long time, and I think everybody has different ways on how they set the goals. So what we'll do is we'll give you that ability to do both financial goals and also some lifestyle goals. So let's jump into today's episode. The first way that I want you to take a look at this and think through this goal setting lens is it's obviously kind of part of our mission at Raising the Flipping Bar to help from a personal development perspective. Yeah, investing is super important. I obviously love real estate investing, but it's got to be kind of that whole life philosophy. And so the way I want to think of it and help set the context for today's episode is I know some people hate goal setting. I know some people hate New Year's resolutions. I kind of have a beef when the gym gets super crowded in January. Like, I get it. I'm that guy too. But what I want to do is think of it in context of the reason why I feel that goal setting is so important. And not only it helps you achieve those goals is I actually equate it back to a time when there's now actually something in my life that I can't achieve, which is really hard for me to say out loud because I've had some spine surgeries. And so something that I was really passionate about was running Tough Mudder races and running Spartan races. And so I think back to kind of like, you have to set goals or else you're going to get destroyed on the course. So just a quick little context, a full Tough Mudder race, they run them all over the country. The ones in Colorado are typically in the mountains, and they're between 11 and 13 miles in distance. And they're between 20 and 25 military style obstacles that you have to go through. And so you cannot just go out there and wing it. You can't just step up to the finish line unless you want a god awful experience and just say, well, I hope this goes well. You have to set goals. You have to train. And so for me, I had a goal after my second one, which was to finish the Tough Mudder in under 3 hours. And this one was in Breckenridge. The other kind of fun thing is I ended up actually doing it with a bunch of buddies. And so you can kind of take your goals and you can incorporate them with other people that are important in your life. And so again, had I just gone out there and just wung it and try to just figure out this race, it would have been a total train wreck and a total disaster. But I really dialed in my training 6 months in advance. I made an action plan. I stuck to that plan. I adjusted it when I needed to course correct a little bit. There were times where I wasn't hitting my time on my runs. And so there's just certain things that you need to do. And the funny thing is it makes me vividly remember achieving that goal because at the end of the Tough Mudder, there are actually electroshock cords that hang down and you have to run through to hit the finish line and completely get shocked. And so it's vividly in my memory that I was super excited to finish in under 3 hours on my second race, but I got freaking shocked. And so that just snapped me back into thinking of something of, okay, what did I do from a goal perspective? Why did I set those goals and how did I train appropriately to get there? So the other funny thing is, like I said, you need to do it with some people and you need to not take yourself so seriously. So shout out to Ben. He's an amazing human being and he's been in the military and done some very high level things. He's currently a firefighter with Denver Fire. And to not take yourself so seriously, he's also a beast and in super good shape. And so he ran the Tough Mudder in short shorts, no shirt, bow tie collar, and then cufflinks like he was a Chippendales dancer, more the Patrick Swayze style than the Chris Farley style, if you remember that Saturday Night Live skit. So you need to have fun in trying to achieve your goals too. So I was a little jealous because I'm all in my technical gear and stuff, and I could barely keep up with him, and he's running around like a shirtless maniac. So I'm sure some of you guys are thinking, what the hell does this have to do with goal setting? But I want to kind of use that to help transition into thinking of it from a whole life and holistic perspective. So I did some research, and there's a lot out there on what you need to do to make a goal something that's attainable and successful. So I'm going to give you guys 4 different points that are very good and overarching, in my opinion, to hitting your specific goals. So the first one that really, this is like ubiquitous across a lot of different high performing folks that I researched, is they need to be measurable. You've got to be able to track your progress, and you have to measure, am I achieving this goal or not, rather than just some arbitrary number. The second thing is they need to be specific. So rather than just saying, let's maybe actually take it back to the fitness thing. I just want to be in good shape. Well, what does that mean? For some people, that's 5% body fat and being able to run a 4-minute mile. And for other people, that's maybe losing 100 pounds and that's hitting 20% body fat, which is a huge accomplishment for them. So you have to be specific, or else I just don't think you're going to really set yourself up for success. So after being measurable, you need to be very specific. And to me, that's also like a time frame thing. Again, if you want to talk about getting into shape, or you want to talk about making $1 million, again, does that take you 1 month, or does that take you 10 years? Those are 2 very different aspects to look through that lens. And so I think you need to be really specific. Number 3 is it needs to be both mission oriented and vision oriented. And so I think with that one, the reason why I really like that key point is that things get tough. And sometimes things go completely wrong into hell in a handbasket. And so if you're not working towards something that aligns with your mission and your vision as a human being, or whether for me it's a father, or it's a dad, or whether it is being a business owner or a husband or whatever else, there's some times where it's like, what, screw it, I'm not going to do this. But if it's aligned with your mission, your vision, I think that makes those goals way more attainable. And the fourth thing is, I think you need to be freaking ambitious. So with ambition, I think some people probably perceive that as being self-centered or maybe conceited or whatever. If you don't have big goals, I don't really know why you're doing stuff. There's so many people that I see going through life and they're just doing okay. They're just doing fine. But those are the people that are not happy. I think you're actually happy, even though it is not easy, when you're pushing yourself. And so if we think through those 4 different tiers of guidance and for goal setting, which is measurable, specific, vision and mission oriented, and ambitious, that's the backdrop of how I want you guys to think about today's podcast. So the first one where I want to kind of jump into all those 4 key points is like taking it back to a book, which is called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And this book was written by Dan Sullivan. For those of you guys watching online and on YouTube, I'm showing this book. I'm a nerd. I like the hard copy. I like to physically write. I like to highlight. There's different ways that I actually like to really execute on how I read these books. But to me, the title actually says all of it, which is, it is easier, in Dan Sullivan's opinion, and I had to take some time to wrap my brain around this, but to go 10 times as big than to just go 2 times as big. And that sounds crazy, because if somebody's doing $1 million a year in revenue, $2 million is a big jump. But the amount of energy and effort it takes for you to do that, you might as well go 10 times as big. And if for some reason you fall a little bit short, you've still 8 extra business, or you've 7 extra business, or you've 7 extra lifestyle. And so I really, really like that. The other way that Dan Sullivan frames it is that you have to have big and you have to have ambitious goals. Because again, you can't have these safe little goals where you're like, oh, well, I want to go from doing 5 flips this year to 6 flips. That's actually not that big of an increase, and you don't have to really push yourself to get there. But if you said you want to do 16 or 26 or whatever your number is, that could be something that I think can really, really help you. So you got to really go for those big and ambitious goals. The other thing is you have to focus on your unique talents, or what we call our circle of genius. You cannot 10x your output if you're just playing it safe, and you're not able to do that if you're leaning into things that you're not very good at. So you have to work within your circle of genius, and you also have to surround yourself with really smart and great people and hardworking people. Because again, you can't achieve these large goals by just doing small little things. So you've got to build your team up around you. You've got to set your business up for success. You have to set yourself up personally for success. And that really helps you amplify your results. So again, this one, 10X is easier than 2X. It's a great way to help you set your goals for 2025. Okay, Next, I'm sure those of you that have listened to the podcast know that it's coming. So here it is. It's my 6th time of reading one of my favorite books. It's called Traction by Gino Wickman. And for me, I really like this book. You can see those of you guys reading online. Again, I've got all these different highlighter colors. I've got my little pink Post-it notes. I've got everything you ever needed for really diving into traction. And for me, I almost lean back to my football days. And I think of traction as a way to focus on what we call the X's and the O's, but that's the very specific strategy of how to set goals. And there's actually a 2-page document, and it's called the Vision Traction Organizer. And what I love is it's such a succinct way that with traction, it actually has you definitely hit on the mission and the vision. So again, you need to think big picture and what really fulfills you. It talks a little bit about what you want to achieve in 10 years, which seems like an eternity. But if you don't think big enough, and you can take that 10x is easier than 2x mindset and think really big 10 years from now, it gets pretty granular when it goes down from the 3-year. And that's where I really start to dig in and really like to look at this thing. And so you've got your 3-year goals, because there's a lot of things you need to be focusing on right now to actually achieve those goals within 3 years. Things do not happen overnight. I wish they did. We'd be a hell of a lot further along. But to me, it just doesn't happen that way. So you got to do stuff today that's going to set you up for success in 3 years. But again, then it gets really granular from not only an annual perspective, but from a quarterly perspective. And so I want to focus on what they call quarterly rocks in the book Traction. And what that is stemmed from is, if you try to think of a Home Depot bucket. And if you tried to fill up that bucket and you had water, you had some little teeny pebbles, you had some sand, you had some medium-sized rocks, then you had some bigger, not boulders per se, because we're putting it in a 5-gallon bucket, but some significantly big-sized rocks. If you just dumped in all the small stuff and then tried to have, especially with the water, room for the boulders to go in, everything would flow over. But if you focus on your most important things first, meaning your large rocks, you put all those in your bucket first. You then backfill with the medium-sized rocks. You pour the sand in. Your bucket will fill up more efficiently. You can top it off with your water, and you can actually get everything you need in those buckets. And so that's where that term, the rocks, come from. And as a company, we are hyper focused on our rocks as a company. Each team member at Elevation and our agents on the Elevation real estate team, they all have quarterly 90-day rocks and business plans that we all individually execute on. And it's something that also helps you plan out each individual day. So again, if your goal is to do X number of transactions or create a certain amount of profit, or how fast can you get flips done, you need to look at those in 90-day increments, but it's what you're doing today to help you achieve those 90-day goals and results. And the other thing is, again, I feel like it makes us work much more smart versus just working hard. There's days where you can wake up, you're like, oh, I have such this crazy to-do list. But if you're focusing on those little pebbles of sand type of activities, you need to focus on your big rocks. How are you going to make money? How are you going to make connections? How are you going to create content? How are you going to add value to other people and their businesses? That's what you need to focus on, not just the generic, oh, I've got to pay one bill today. Yes, you need to pay that bill, but pay that bill in the afternoon and work on everything that you need to in the morning to really achieve and move that forward. So again, it's something that we also look at with Traction is they've got a little section that they call the issues section. And what I like about that section is it's something that you can acknowledge the challenges. You can also take it off your plate for today or for maybe that quarter, and it's something that you can solve in the future. Sometimes you don't have to solve every single little thing like completely on the spot. And so if you start to really get granular and walk through those different aspects of goal setting, I think that should help you from a bit more of a technical and a business perspective. Dealing with hard money lenders is the biggest headache real estate investors have. I thought that's just how hard money had to be until I met Backflip. Backflip is changing the lending game by actually making loans stress-free. And I know this firsthand because I personally use them for my own deals. Let me tell you, their free app makes real estate investing effortless. With just a few taps, I can apply for loans tailored exactly to my needs, whether it's low interest rates, high leverage, or even deferred payments. The best part, I can secure financing in less than 2 weeks, making it easier to scale my business and close more profitable deals. But it doesn't stop there. Backflip instantly provides all the data I need to estimate profits, including a curated list of high-quality comps, saving me hours of work. Unlike other lenders who disappear after funding, Backflip is a true partner for elevation. Their team is always just a call away and ready to answer any questions and offer support. With Backflip, you get the data and the cash you need to jump on good investments quickly and with confidence. Click the link in the show notes to download the free app. Now let's get back to the show. So let's jump into the third book, and that is Vivid Vision, and that's by Cameron Herold. And I purposely saved this book for last as far as how are you using it as a tool to help set your goals. And the reason that I did that is it seems to be much more of a holistic book about your whole self and not just the business side. My teenage daughters, the term that they use, and it cracks me up, is they're like, "Dad, you're being too businessy." Like, I definitely get that. Like, I can be way too businessy, and I think a lot of us can that are entrepreneurs, especially folks in the real estate industry. And so the cool thing that I like about Vivid Vision is it blends lifestyle with some aspects of business. And so the way that Cameron Herold phrases it and helps you center yourself is you need to focus on what he calls the 5 F's. I can't remember, honestly, when I'm looking at my show notes, if these are in quote unquote order, but I think this is really, you should think about it as what's most important for you and what's going to help set those other pieces up to succeed. And for me, fitness is actually probably number one, because if I'm not in the right headspace, if I haven't worked out, if I haven't done something hard, then again, my kids will probably tell me that I'm cranky, or maybe my wife will. But to me, you've got to have those fitness goals, because from a health perspective, like, you can't, it's like in the airplane when they say you need to put your oxygen mask on first and then help somebody else. Because if you try to do that and you run out of oxygen, you're probably both going to kick the bucket. So have some fitness goals, whatever those most might be. Again, make them measurable, make them specific, and make them challenging. Then he talks about faith. I'm not here to profess what faith somebody should or shouldn't be, but to have some sort of spiritual component and goals of mindfulness and peacefulness of what you're doing, I think is really, really important. I've tried to meditate. I'm not very good at it. I'm trying to get better, but I've got it as specific goals. So I think having a faith component is something that's really, really important. Then it goes into family. So again, why are we doing all this businessy stuff, as my girls would say, without having that as a benefit to your family? So whether it's a number of vacations you want to go on, maybe you've got a bucket list place that you want to be at, definitely think big picture. Something that I'm also trying to do is how can you be present every day with your family? So it could be something as simple as, hey, I want to, actually something that we do at our house is I just go and lay in my kid's bed and I just listen to them talk. And I just try to ask them questions they can say more than the typical teenager yes, no answer. So you can set bigger intentions and you can do little things, but again, make them measurable, make them specific, and make them consistent. If you've got that family box, hopefully perpetually checked and going the right direction, then you move on to finance. And that can be both personal finance and that can be business finance. So the finance side is really, really important. And it can be personal finance and it can also be business finance. So I think it's important to have those goals. Again, you can lean back on those other 2 book references that I talked about to really help you set yourself up for success. And the 5th F, it's like barely get these out without being tongue-tied, is friends. This is something that, like, again, as a dude, I have a hard time with this and I'm not very good at it. Maybe, again, I put this as 5th, but it's really important, I think, to have friendships in your life, because if you're financially successful and hopefully in whatever your definition of good shape is, and you've got a good family, but all you do is businessy stuff, as my girls say, then you're probably not truly fulfilled. And so checking that friend bucket is a really, really cool thing. Something that we've got that I haven't done yet, and my business coach always gets on me, but having the Marlin mastermind is something that I'm going to create in 2025. And part of that will be with friends, and it's actually going deep sea fishing to catch a Marlin. So cheesiness, I get it, but that's something that's really fun for me and something I'm passionate about. I've actually had my son catch a blue Marlin, which has been freaking amazing. So have those different 5 F's aligned. And I think it's something that will really help you from a goal setting perspective. And the thing I like about going back to this Vivid Vision book is I was not very good at this in my 20s and 30s. And so I think having that full alignment of goals, and not just like your personal goals from a financial perspective or maybe a career perspective. And I think that's something that this book, I've read it 3 times now, and it's something speaks to me differently every time I read it. And I've read it about 18 months apart. The cool thing is that he then dives into, it's essentially a detailed handbook and a really quick read of your why and really how to think big. He even talks about writing it out, of not only just doing a vision board, which I think is a cool thing, but you can actually go into and have a person professionally write it so that it just sounds amazing. Like, I'm a decent writer, but there's people that are a lot better than I am. And now with Chat GPT and all the AI tools, like, I think you could create a really cool vision board, but also something in written format. I think it helps it really make it come true regardless of the obstacles. It's something that you have to push through and really have to move forward. And then also including in it your personal and your family vision. So I want to know what is important to my wife, or what's important to my kids, or what's important to your business partner, or maybe your life partner. So I think it's important to hear what other people have as their goals and how can you help them achieve those goals. So I wanted to give you guys some tools. I'll wrap up today's episode with some action steps that I would love for you to take. And again, hopefully you've got some big picture, really big goals that you can go after, both personally and professionally. You can get in the weeds from a business perspective on the traction side of things and really dial in your business. And then you can also zoom back out from a vision perspective and think through that vivid vision mindset. So you can reach out to us and get that vision traction organizer document, and we'll send it to you in blank format. I would definitely say buy the book because I think there's so many other tools, but if it's something you don't want to do, just hit us up and we'll get you guys that. The other thing is that we're going to post our goals in January. It's something that I haven't done. I used to write co-author a book, a shout out with Chris Lopez at Property Llama, and he would have people author a chapter from Denver investors all across the metro area in Colorado, and you put your goals out there. And that was something that I really enjoyed and I've gotten away from. So I think it would be great for us to reiterate that on our podcast. And then it's fun. You guys can hold me accountable and I can hold you guys accountable. So as we wrap up with today's episode, we obviously want you guys to reach out to us. We want you to tell us what you're using for effective goal setting. And maybe one of your goals is to do your first flip. Well, obviously, we would love to help you with the Elevation Academy. We've got that coming up in first quarter of 2025, and we'll do some special holiday promo pricing. So reach out to us. We actually just recorded an amazing episode before this with two of our former students, and they're now on I think their 15th combined project in the last 18 months. They've done some together. They've done some apart. So again, if we can help you guys reach your goals, please reach out to us. We'd love to help you guys. I really appreciate you tuning in. I know people can hang it up over the holidays, but this is something that's really important and passionate to me. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Raising the Flipping Bar. If you found value in our insights and stories, let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on social media and be sure to share this episode with friends or colleagues who might benefit. Your feedback and reviews help us grow and reach more listeners like you. So please, if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review. Thanks again to the Elevation Academy for sponsoring today's show. If you're interested in learning more, click the link in the show notes below. And remember, every property tells a story, every deal brings a lesson. Keep reaching for those goals, and we'll catch you on the flip side.